No! Buying as is does not mean what you think it does.
You better get fired up!
All right, so as is means different things depending upon what state you're in the country, but generally speaking, I think there's a big misconception as to what as is truly means. So most people look at as is and they think it's like anything else, right? You go to a yard sale, you get something as is. It means you're buying it in the condition it's in. There's no negotiation, take it or leave it, right? That's what as is means to most people. What happens is a lot of buyers and sellers get the misunderstanding in their head that that's what it means in real estate as well, and it's just not true. So I'm going to go back and forth a little bit here, giving you the expectation of both Florida and different states around the US. All right, guys, if you're liking the information I'm putting out, you can go up to my Facebook business page and get even more information, or check out everything I've got over here on my Instagram page. So one big misconception is, hey, if we're selling as is, you, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, are not allowed to have an inspection. It's just not true. Now, while every inspection is negotiable, even in a standard contract, you are allowed as a buyer to have that inspection if it's agreed upon in the purchase agreement. Now, in Florida, if you don't put in a specific amount of days, you're given 15 days as a buyer to get that inspection done. That number, of course, can be amended to any number you'd like as long as it works out for both parties and it's agreed to in writing. The big takeaway, though, is you are allowed as a buyer to have that inspection, and I would strongly recommend that you do so. So in Florida, the big difference between a standard contract and an as-is contract is the amount that the seller's agreeing to fix if there's any issues before you even get the inspection completed. So in the state of Florida, if you're looking at an as-is contract, you're agreeing that, hey, if we've already agreed upon the inspection, right? Once the inspection is complete and we look at that long list of issues that we have with the property, everything that gets completed, paid for, covered, not covered, whatever, is negotiable between the buyer and the seller. Now, if the seller or the seller's realtor have the misconception that as is means I won't do anything, they can choose to do nothing. It doesn't matter. It's up to them. But nothing in the contract stops you from actually having that negotiation and getting some things done at the seller's expense. So if that's what the as-is contract says, what does the standard contract say? The standard contract says that there are limits that are forced upon the seller no matter what, right? So I'll give you an example. If you have wood-destroying organisms in your home, you can put in there automatically that 1.5% of the purchase price will be covered by the seller for any expenses due to termites or whatever it is in your house, right? So on a $200,000 home, 1.5% is $3,000. There's no negotiation that needs to happen. You've already agreed before the inspection that if something pops up in that category, the seller's going to pay up to $3,000 or 1.5% of the $200,000 sales price, right? So it's those upfront limits that are set before the inspection even happens that sets those two contracts apart from each other. So another big misconception is that if you're selling a property and you sell it as is, you don't have to disclose any issues that you know about with the property. Wrong. You still have to disclose, right? In paragraph 10, it states specifically that the seller knows of no known material facts that negatively impact the property. If the seller signs off on that, they are agreeing that we don't know anything negative about this property. If there are any drawbacks, negatives, fixes that need to be made, fixes that were made, anything like that, it's on the seller legally to disclose that. And yes, it doesn't matter if it's a standard contract or an as-is contract. The need to disclose is still a need. Here's a little asterisk for you too, because this applies not only to the differences between the contracts, but a lot of different owning situations, right? So I've had situations where the owner of the property has never even seen the property, right? I'll give you two examples. I've had landlords before that have owned the property. They've rented it out to tenants. The tenants get out. Now they decide they want to sell the property and they've never seen it before, right? Or maybe somebody's mom and dad own the property. Mom and dad passed away and now they got the property, but they literally haven't been in the house for 10, 20 years, whatever it is. So in these cases, yes, the disclosures are probably going to be a whole bunch of I don't knows, but you are still required to disclose. And then the last big question is, which contract's better? It's really dependent upon your personal decision, both as a buyer and a seller. There's no right or wrong decision for everybody, right? So with your specific situation, my biggest piece of guidance for you would be to talk to a real estate agent, talk to an attorney, talk to someone that you trust in the industry. Tell them your specific scenario and they can lay out for you which is better and why you would even want or not want to consider the alternative contract. All right, those are the big differences between the standard and as-is contract, specifically down here in Florida. If you've got any more questions, right up above there's my email address. You can send me an email anytime. If you like the video, please go down and hit like. If you loved it, as always, get down there and hit subscribe. And you guys stay fired up.